Hey. Happy flippin' New Year, everybody. It's official. We made it into 2012. So that means we got, another 11 months or so to live, right? Oh, give me a friggin' break. You know, years ago on RBN, I interviewed a guy who was pretty pathetic. And I'm sure there's other groups like this, but this particular group, he's got a bunch of followers, and they bought a piece of land in Africa with a big mountain on it. And a few days before December 21st, later this year, they're all going to move there. They've been building for the past 10 years or so. They've been building houses, you know, a little community up there. And just a few days before the big disaster strikes, they're all going to fly from around the world and move into their homes and ride out the disaster. You know, the floods, the earthquakes. They got it figured that they're going to be safely protected up there in their little mountain hovel. It's pretty pathetic, guys. That day is going to come and go, and they're going to be sitting there looking like the jackasses that they've always been. Absolutely. I mean, they put everything into this. Some of them, have sold everything, and they're bargaining everything on this happening. You know how many times this has happened in the past? Where the end of the world was predicted, and, 1844, guys, was a big one in this country. All the religious nutbags that were associated with the Millerite movement, Seventh-day Adventists, from out of that grew your Jehovah's Witnesses and several other cults. They're all cults, but, several other different sects emerged from the Millerite movement. I mean, there were thousands and thousands of them all over the country that were anxiously anticipating. And a lot of them did the same thing. You know, they sold their homes, gave everything away, and that date came, October 22nd, 1844. It came and went, nothing happened, and now they were crap out of luck. They didn't have anything. Stupid asses. What's interesting with the 2012 thing is it's not just religiously motivated. I mean, it isn't just religious people that fall for this. It's across the board. Oh, it's pathetic. I don't know how people, especially when you see that this is, has gone on so many times in the past. I can't believe that people still fall for this stuff. This one comes branded with the appearance of scientific legitimacy, so that makes it acceptable. Well, they said the same thing about Y2K, didn't they? The same thing about 1985. I remember reading a pamphlet that scared me as a kid about an upcoming planetary alignment in 1985, and that was going to be the end of the world. Oh, please. But anyway, here we are, 2012, or the year of Zion. No telling what kind of crap the scum have planned for this year, huh, guys? And how many dumbasses, as always, are going to fall for it. Oh, well. Anyway, interesting discussion today, guys. So we'll jump into that when we get back. Stick with us. All right, guys. Welcome back. So, before I get into the, I talked about launching into the discussion about the pilgrims and the pilgrims/Puritans, and then, the Salem witch trials. Very interesting discussion. But before I even get into that, a couple quick topics I want to take up, only because they're tied in intimately with what we've been talking about. This has been one long stream for the past couple months of interconnected subjects. Satanism, MK Ultra, the Laurel Canyon incidents, all involving human sacrifice, all involving, Satanism. Very prominent across the board, guys, in the entertainment industry. It's a requirement, if you will. It's a rite of passage if you want to get your foot in the door in Hollywood, in the music scene or the acting scene nowadays. and thus be in the spotlight in the public eye and be influential, particularly with youth, you have to be inducted into Satanism. You have to embrace it, or at least give the illusion that you embrace it anyway. You might not really inside, but you have to portray that in your music, or you're never going to make it. That's just how it works, which is why, again, you see that theme pop up all over the damn place in the music world, in the lyrics, in the videos, you know, on and on. So before I leave this subject of, well, I'm not really leaving it, but, you know, when I discuss the Salem witch trials, that's not going to be leaving it. But, you know, before I get into that, I want to cover another interesting aspect of this, and that is the prominent theme that pops up all over the place, corporate logos, for example, of Saturn or Saturn worship. You know, we live in a world of shadows and illusions, in case you haven't noticed. Every day, all around us, themes and concepts are being passed before our eyes and our ears, and we so often don't even recognize them for what they are. We're not intended to. We're led to believe that we're seeing one thing, but we're really being shown another. We two pigs love that. You know, it's all a sleight of hand trick. That's what 9/11 was. Anyway, this is being done in so many different ways from every conceivable angle. One of them is the manner in which the dark, sinister religion of Kabbalistic Judaism flaunts its Saturn worship ever before our eyes, which in this context is really Satan worship, and virtually no one ever takes notice of it. Saturn has been associated with evil since ancient times, as well as with, you know, Lucifer, the devil, Satan, whatever. For example, let's take a look at what New Ager Vera Stanley Alder, a Jew, of course, in the book When Man Comes of Age, had written. It says, the Saturnian spirit, Satan, ensouls the primary ray of deity. So here we see, at least in the elite Jew pig context, and again, elite Jew pigs, guys, as I demonstrated on an earlier show a couple of weeks back, they run the whole New Age movement. And by the way, I need to make this disclaimer statement more clear. I don't think I made it clear enough because I got some emails inquiring about it. When I talk about the New Age movement being evil, I'm not talking about New Agers across the board. There's a lot of New Age people who are actually very sincere and are seeking after an understanding of this whole friggin' mess that we're in. And, you know, a lot of good books have been written by New Agers. The non-Jewish ones, that is. Seriously, you know, at any given time, if you ever run into me in a bookstore, 90% of the time I'm going to be in the New Age section. I'm not into the New Age movement, but a lot of the best books out there wind up in the New Age section. A lot of your conspiracy books wind up in the New Age section. It's a hodgepodge of all kinds. You know, it's not just, you know, witchcraft books and you know, how to cast spells and astrology books. There's a lot of good stuff in there. You're really selling yourself short if you avoid that that section. You know, the Christians, of course, think that their hair's going to catch on fire, or you know, they're going to be branded with 666 on their ass if they even walk within 10 feet of the New Age section. It's so ridiculous. So when I talk about the New Age movement, I'm simply trying to expose the fact that it's run by Jews, and therefore we have to keep our guard up and constantly be aware that they're trying to manipulate us through a lot of what comes under the banner of New Age. But by no means am I implying that everything that's labeled New Age is evil, or that everyone who is in the New Age movement is evil. No, of course not. Let's always keep this in perspective. Just like when I say, you know, Judaism is evil. I'm not saying all Jews, although most of them, I'm not saying all Jews are evil. I'm not saying all Masons are evil. Masonry is thoroughly evil. But there's a lot of, dupes who join the thing, having no idea what the hell it's about, and probably never will know. They just show up Wednesday nights to play cards. Anyway, Saturn was, and apparently still is, considered the chief of all deities, the most powerful within, certain circles that are into this kind of thing. Kabbalist Alice Bailey said of this deity in the Labors of Hercules, where is it here? Okay. She wrote, Saturn gives us discipline. Saturn opens for us the door of opportunity. Saturn, through spiritual exercises and trials. Interesting that she should mention spiritual exercises, by the way, because, of course, that's the title of the Kabbalistic book written by the founder of the Jesuit order, the Jew, the Marrano Jew, Ignatius Loyola. But anyway, Saturn, she says, through spiritual exercises and trials, strengthens our spiritual muscles and enables us to emerge out of darkness into light. Well, there goes your light again. In this Jew-orchestrated New Age movement, the light actually means darkness. Everything is doublespeak. And, of course, that light, or light bearer himself, is, Lucifer, which, of course, we've seen Madame Blavatsky admit is Satan. So, if Satan doesn't appeal to certain crowds, they'll give him different names. Lucifer for some, Saturn for others. It's all the same damn thing, folks. Short break, guys. Be right back. Anyway, let's take a brief look at Saturn worship going back to ancient times. In Rome, Saturn was the god of agriculture, which was identified with the Greek god Kronos, who was the god of time, of course, where we get chronography from. Chronological time, related to time. But its roots go back way before that time, of course, before the Greeks, before the Romans, to the era of the Canaanites, and then to the Phoenicians. In Rome, the festival of Saturn was called Saturnalia, which ran from December 17th to the 25th. During this time, businesses were closed and people exchanged gifts. This later became, of course, Christmas. And, of course, the observance of that time of year, that time of year being a great festive holiday celebration goes way back before that. It can be traced back to Sumer, back to Babylon. The observance of the birthday of Tammuz, one of the chief deities of, the ancient Fertile Crescent region. Anyway, Saturn was the son of Caelus, or Uranus, or Heaven, and Terra, his female companion, or Gaia, which is very commonly referenced in the New Age movement, representing Earth, Mother Earth. Saturn came to power by overthrowing his father, Caelus, whom he castrated, we're told. But it was foretold that one day a mighty son of Saturn would in turn overthrow him, according to the legend. Thus, every child born to Saturn was devoured by him to prevent the fulfillment of this prophecy, and thus to maintain his power. But there's a lot more to the Saturn story and the meaning it holds, as we shall see. But let's first look at how Saturn pops up everywhere. Again, guys, in the elite Jew pig context, Saturn is just a disguise for Satan in their beloved religion of Satanism. Everything they offer us, guys, is a cloaked version of something else. Yahweh, as I'll be talking about in the next discussion that immediately follows this, which I probably won't get to till tomorrow. But we're going to look at Yahweh and see more clearly than ever that Yahweh is another cloaked version of Satan. Yahweh is Satan, folks. And again, whether you believe Satan is a real entity or not, Satan represents all that is evil in Judaism. And so they are the chosen of God, the chosen of Satan. Satan being, again, whether you believe him to be real or not, Satan represents to them. That's why you need to understand, this entity, because understanding it will help you understand them. Satan and Satanism represents all that Judaism has ever stood for all through the centuries, and all their God has ever stood for, which is, of course, Satan or Yahweh, whichever name you want to give them. It's the same damn thing. You have any doubt about that, stay tuned. I'll be covering that. If I don't get to it today, I'll be getting to it tomorrow. Anyway, Saturn pops up everywhere. Black is the color of the ancient Semitic god Saturn, Semitic coming from the Phoenicians. And its shape is either a square or a cube. That's its, the occultic shape that's been assigned to it. A black square, particularly. Now that gets very interesting. Black, as we'll see, black, of course, is the color of evil. It always has been associated with evil. Thus, followers of Satanism wear black robes. Practitioners of the dark black arts, witches, warlocks, again, they wear black. Vampires, of course, wear black attire as well. The Rolling Stones have songs like Black Angel and Paint It Black. You see this theme popping up all over the place. The Eagles have, Black Magic Woman. We even have the evil mercenary hiring Pentagon contracting company, Blackwater. Of course, they've now changed their name to give themselves a facelift, but once again, this imagery pops up literally everywhere. When you graduate from high school or college, they put a black robe on you. You've been initiated now into higher learning. And of course, you're usually inducted into a secret society of which most people know nothing about, Theta, Alpha, Kappa, or whatever the hell. And you give your little contribution. Where do you think that money goes? And they give you your little pin to indicate now that you're inducted. You don't even know what you've joined. You don't even know what you've become a part of. And that the knowledge you've received is 99% BS. And so now whatever profession you enter, everything you do, everything you discover is all going to be forced into the context of the crap that they've pre-fed you, that they've spoon-fed you for the previous 4, 8, 12 years, whatever. And then, of course, they adorn your head with a black mortar board or square in shape. Isn't that interesting? Representing the black cube for Saturn. Do we not see black squares along with white ones to set them off on the floors of Masonic lodges? To show just how important the theme of Saturn figures is with Freemasonry. Notice the following quote from Manly P. Hall, again, 33rd degree Mason, passed away back in 1990. This is from his book, The Secret Teachings of All Ages. He said, the solar system was organized by forces operating inward from the great ring of the Saturnian sphere. What a bunch of crap. Anyway, and since the beginnings of things were under the control of Saturn, the most reasonable inference is that the first forms of worship were dedicated to him and his particular symbol, the stone. In the Muslim world, this is the stone in the Kaaba. Unbelievable, guys. We'll talk more about that in a moment. He goes on to say, thus, the intrinsic nature of Saturn is synonymous with that spiritual rock which is the enduring foundation of the solar temple and has its antitypical or lower octave in that terrestrial rock, the planet Earth, which sustains upon its jagged surface the diversified genera of mundane life. Okay, yeah, this is all pure, absolute, 100% grade A, FDA-approved horse crap, but nevertheless, it gives you a glimpse into where these losers are coming from, you know, and what makes their twisted thinking operate. They believe Saturn is the chief deity, that the whole solar system exists because of Saturn. And he's not just talking the deity, he's talking here about the planet itself, which they have deified. So bizarre. Anyway, guys, short break, be right back. All right, guys, welcome back. So look at the interconnections here, how this stuff, again, pops up everywhere. Most people would pass right by this stuff, never bat an eyelash at it. But as mentioned, the square, particularly the black square, is very, very big in Freemasonry. You see it in their tiling in all of their lodges. All of their lodges have this pattern, the black and white tiling. You see it actually all over the place, don't you? Everywhere. A lot of courthouses, a lot of public buildings across the board, government buildings. And again, it seems like no big deal. Oh, it's just a fancy design. No, guys, this is done deliberately. It's like a dog pissing on everything everywhere it goes to mark its turf. This is what they're doing. They're pissing all over us, guys. And, of course, along with the compass, is not the square a chief tool of the craft of Freemasonry? Of course it is. What does this represent to them? It's their god, Saturn, or Satan, Lucifer, the devil, Yahweh. Is this not the source of the term square deal? Of course it is. That's exactly where that comes from. How about when you want to get things squared away? Where do you think this all comes from, guys? It's all in your damn face. Anyway, let's see here. Coming back to our discussion of the color black, which again, this square is almost always in this context portrayed as black. And is this not the color of not only vampires and witches and warlocks? Is it not also the color of the attire of priests, nuns, and, of course, rabbis? Rabbis, ladies and gentlemen. How about judges, of course? Oh, guys, the connections between Freemasonry and our court system. Our court houses, guys, are set up. The courtroom is set up like a frickin' Masonic lodge. Look at how the judges have their little gavels. Did you know that the head of Masonic lodges, the Grand Master, also bears a gavel? But just the whole arrangement, the way the court, I'll do a whole show on that sometime. I don't want to get into that right now. But the parallels are striking, absolutely striking, the way that the lodges and the courtrooms are set up. And again, usually the black and white floor tilings, unbelievable. But again, notice the black robe that a judge wears. What kind of message do you suppose? Where do you think this damn thing came from? You not see how elite you pigs control every frickin' thing? Everything. Is it coincidence that priests wear black robes, or black robes or black outfits, just like the rabbis? That officials in the Catholic Church, of course, wear the tonsure, or not the tonsure, but the equivalent of the yarmulke. What the hell do they call it now? The beanie cap, anyway. You know, the Pope wears it, the cardinals, the bishops. Where do you think this stuff comes from? Anyway, this is very interesting. Not only do rabbis wear black, ladies and gentlemen, but when they're doing their prayers with their phylacteries, you will see a black cube, a black box on their foreheads. Did you ever see that? What do you think that represents, folks? That's their god Saturn, which is, of course, another name for Satan. They're wearing the representation of their dark lord, their dark master, right on their damn forehead. And, you know, in the elite Jew pig context, the forehead stands for the mind. And so when you put that on your forehead, what is that saying? What's the symbology there? That everything that goes on in their mind is geared toward their master, Satan. That Satan has complete control over their mind. Well, just look at the rotten fruit they have borne and always will bear. And that should tell you something. As mentioned a moment ago, the Kaaba in Mecca. Guys, seeing that elite Jew pigs created, you know, not only Christianity, but Islam, this shouldn't surprise us. Look at the very heart of Islam. This black square, the Kaaba, sacred to Muslims around the world, right there in Mecca. It's a giant black cube that enshrines the sacred stone, which is probably a freaking meteorite. But anyway, notice the black cube. You see this damn thing all over the place. They idolize the same symbol that Jews that they claim to be so much opposed to, you know, elite Jew scum, it's supposed to be so much opposed to them, but, you know, they wear the damn same symbol on their heads that they have at the center of their religion there in Mecca. What the hell's wrong with that picture? How they can't see this is absolutely amazing. But there's their little piss stains right there, right in the center of their religion, guys. Every Muslim must make a pilgrimage at some point in their life to Mecca to see the great black box. Black box. Now, where do you think that comes from? The term for the, you know, well, there's actually two of them for each plane, you know, the recordings of the cockpits so that when a plane crashes, you know, like on 9/11, the black boxes that they were looking for, so they can try to determine what the cause of the crash was. Why do you think they call them a black box? They're not even black. They're actually painted a bright orange, so they'll stand out in the debris. Why do they call it a black box? Pandora's black box. Think about it, guys. This concept dates back to, you know, long before the time of Muhammad, and yet there's Islam looking at this black box there in Mecca. Don't they ever wonder, even for one moment, what the hell this really means? Have they never looked into the history of this to see how, quote, pagan it is? They're supposed to be so opposed to paganism. Yeah, you don't get more pagan than that. Real paganism is Judaism. This is what the ultimate laugh is, the ultimate joke on so many misguided Christians out there who think that paganism is anything that isn't of the Jewish religion, you know, the Old Testament Jewish religion. That was the sacred religion, and everything else is pagan and profane. You dumb saps. Boy, have you been suckered. Anyway, the same thing, this black box, as it turns out, was found in ancient Jerusalem, right in the temple, the Ark of the Covenant, which was essentially, well, it was an elongated box, but a box nonetheless, guys. It was the centerpiece of the Jewish religion, which, for all practical purposes, housed the presence of God. It was a power cube, if you will. Big in all ancient religions. And again, they didn't originate this. They stole it from the Egyptians, the Assyrians, the Babylonians. They all had this same damn thing, guys. And very often, I'll do a whole show on that sometime. You know, the Ark of the Covenant. Very often they had angelic figures displayed on top of their sacred boxes. Interestingly, if a hollow cube is unfolded, it renders the shape of a cross, interestingly enough. This is perhaps why the cross symbol has been popular in religions associated with Saturn worship, and perhaps why it survives as a symbol of Christianity today, which was created by our same good old friends, Elichu Swineballs. Why would a symbol of Christ's death be more important than a symbol of his resurrection? Did you ever wonder that? Why is the symbol of Christianity the cross instead of, maybe the risen Christ standing up with his arms in the air and maybe some rays of light emanating from it indicating the resurrection? Why isn't that the symbol? Why is the cross the symbol? Because the Elichu pigs created the whole damn thing, and they want that cross, which really grew out of this idea of the box, which represents their god, the devil. They want it right in your face, and it is, and it's been widely accepted, warmly accepted. All right, guys, short break, be right back. All right, guys, welcome back. Interestingly, coming back to this square theme, the name Yahweh of the Hebrew God is known as the Tetragrammaton, meaning, the four-lettered name. Nobody knows what the original vowels were. It was just YHWH. Four-lettered, or perhaps four-sided God. Do the four letters represent the four corners of the square? Are we looking at this Saturn again? Well, we are, as I'll demonstrate in the next discussion following this, that, their God, Yahweh, is the devil. But are they representing him right here in your face with this tetragrammaton thing? This four-sided or four-cornered deity? Do we have a representation of a square here, associating that with their God Yahweh? Whether that is the case or not doesn't matter. Character-wise, it's exactly the same deity. The devil and Yahweh, one and the same. Anyway, the Kabbalah of Jewish mysticism and Masonry, of course, comes from Kabbalah, or cube God, interestingly enough. Kabbalah. So share that with your Islamic friends. Of course, they'll probably get infuriated at you, just like any religious fanatic would. But it's true nonetheless. I'll be doing a show sometime this year at some point. Actually, a couple shows on Islam, guys. The reason why I haven't really focused on Islam much is because, again, it's demonized enough in the Jew pig-run media. I almost hate to speak against it, really, because I'd much rather deal with Muslims than Jews. But nevertheless, guys, because Islam is a Jewish creation, it has to be exposed for what it is, and it is a fraud. Just like Christianity, just like everything else in this friggin' world that these bastards' hooves have walked across. They've totally perverted and corrupted everything. Well, they created those things. But even the things they didn't create, they've infiltrated and corrupted and perverted, which is why I say once again, you can't be associated with any institution or even most schools of thought either. They've left their piss stains on everything, guys. Be your own person, your own independent thinker. Don't ally yourself with anything anymore in this world. They frigged everything up. Anyways, moving on here with the color of, the theme of the color black. Bibles are almost always given black covers. Now, why do you suppose that is? Again, guys, it's like they're putting it right there in your face, telling you, the little black book. flaunting their dark religion under the guise of something holy and sacred. Elite you pigs love doing that. What is holy and sacred about the Bible? What is holy and sacred about the Bible? Yes, there's some good statements in there. Again, to sell their crap, they have to mix some good in with the bad. But overall, look at the damn thing. And that's all Christians focus on, is those few, relatively few good statements that are in there, but the whopping bulk of it, the whopping bulk about what is said of that God is dark, evil, and foreboding. Again, he's a fire-breathing dragon. And if a fire-breathing dragon ever comes at you with soft tones and appealing words and pats you on the back, it's only so he can fool you, so you'll trust him long enough so he can bite your head off. When a snake slithers towards its prey, it doesn't make a bunch of noise, and it doesn't announce its presence. It comes very, any beast of prey does that. You ever watch a cat pursuing its prey, or a lion, or whatever? They move very slowly, very cautiously. They never take their eye off their prey, but they do everything to ensure that they don't attract any attention to themselves until they get close enough, and then they pounce. Well, that's the Bible for you, ladies and gentlemen. Very subtle, but it's got quite a bite to it. Anyway, giant black cubes can be found around major cities around the world, as it turns out, on public display as, quote, works of art. Some very interesting websites out there that have pictures of these things if you haven't seen them already. They're either positioned flat on the surface or on one of their sides, or balanced precariously on one of their corners. Denmark, Manhattan, and Santa Ana, California, for example, display giant black cubes balancing on one corner, whereas there are black squares flat on one side in front of the Apple 24/7 store in New York City and in Sydney, Australia. No explanation given. It's just there, apparently, as some meaningless, arbitrary work of art. Why is it, though, in these major cities? You've got these things all over the place. Why? Are we just supposed to assume that it's arbitrary? How can it be arbitrary when the damn black box or black cube shows up all over the place? It's not arbitrary. It's not random. What's the message then? The message is, again, you pigs like dogs are marking their piss stains everywhere. Their God, they're claiming that turf for themselves and their God, Lucifer, the devil, Yahweh, whichever you want to call it. Or Saturn, more specifically, in that context. That's the name represented. It's the same deity, same damn thing. The black cube is a symbol, of course, of judgment in Freemasonry. From the MasonicTrowel.com website, we find this interesting statement. Justice to the Lodge requires us to cast the black cube on an applicant that we believe to be unfit. Justice to ourselves requires that we cast the black cube on the application of the man we believe would destroy the reputation of our lodge. So if you get the black cube, their God has rejected you. Since 2009, there has been a black box for sale on eBay, which its creator, Caleb Larson, a Jew, of course, calls the tool to deceive and slaughter. Isn't that interesting? Anyway, inside the UN's meditation room is nothing but a big black cube in the middle of the floor. Black granite, I believe. It's also interesting how the cockpit recordings in an airplane are said to be black boxes. I mentioned that a minute ago. Look how this stuff pops up everywhere. A 1970s Captain America cartoon features an evil enemy, Skull, who says, and I quote, "Bring me the cosmic cube, I so command. At last it's mine, the ultimate power, power which can convert thought waves into material action. There is nothing I cannot do, nothing, nothing," and he laughs. Then Captain America says, "That cube, he has only to think of something and it happens. He has become invincible." Then the arch enemy is heard saying, "With the cosmic cube, I soon shall become supreme monarch of all the earth. I'll transmit mental commands that must be obeyed by all. Every able-bodied man will become a fighting machine. I'll create matchless power. No power on earth can stop me." That's the elite Jew pig talking right there for you, folks. Short break, be right back. Anyway, guys, welcome back into the second hour here. Interesting quote, though. "No power on earth can stop me," says this enemy of, what the hell was this? He-Man, I guess? Or Captain America. Captain America. I think I remember that cartoon, too. Anyway, very revealing, very interesting. The black cube in that context represents absolute power. Control over the whole world, control over the masses. And look how they're doing everything in their power to bring that about, guys. MK Ultra was a big part of that. Transmission of electromagnetic waves that correspond with the brain's alpha and beta wave emissions. You know, to gain control. I'll be doing a future show on that. But the tyrant's dream. To mind control people without them even perceiving it. And that's what this black box in this cartoon represented to them. What's the black box? Again, it's their god, Lucifer, the devil, which they look to empower them, to enable them to do this. So it's very interesting, guys. A lot of stuff that comes out of Hollywood, even kids' shows, freaking cartoons, actually portray, you know, how these bastards think right in your face without you even realizing it. They actually come right out and tell you what drives them, what their ultimate goal is. So again, in this context, the cube symbolizes the power of the elite Jew pigs over the masses. Power that they get, again, from their god, Yahweh, the devil, Lucifer, whatever. Is this not where the phrase boxed in comes from? Look at this. And is this not also why we talk about thinking outside the box? Yeah, we need to do a lot of thinking outside the box. Because they do have us boxed in. Do we not also talk in fear about a Pandora's box, as I mentioned before? Of evil being unleashed. That's what's inside Pandora's box, isn't it? A whole world of evil. Don't open that box. Where do you think this stuff freaking comes from? And, you know, don't the elite Jew pigs constantly work day and night to block us from getting ahead? Very interesting usages of these related words, guys. It's not by accident. Can it not be said that the elite Jews are knocking our block off? There's another one. What this really means is they are taking our power, since to them the block or cube is the very source of power. All right, guys, short break, be right back. All right, guys, welcome back. I got a caller here. Poor guy's been waiting on the line for, I guess, 10 minutes. I hope nobody else tried to call and gave up. Sometimes I get on rants and I even forget to look at the call-in screen. So if you did try to call and gave up, call back. I'll try to make it a point to keep an eye on the thing. But before I go to our caller, let me just finish up the point I was making. Very significant, guys. The expression, knock your block off. Let's just take a look at that for a minute. The significance of that can't be overstated. In the Elite Jew Pig context, and that's unquestionably where this came from, what that means is they're taking your power away. Remember, the rabbis wear the black cube on the forehead, representing their power, the power they get from their god, the devil, okay? So when they say they're knocking your block off, they're taking your power away. So if you want to piss off Elite Jew scum, show up at your local synagogue wearing a white cube. I guess maybe that'll tick them off. They like the black cube so much. Let's annoy them. We'll walk by and we'll wear white cubes in our forehead, representing our power over them. White for purity instead of black for evil. But seriously, no question, guys. That's where that comes from, obviously. Knock your block off. Interestingly, an original Star Trek episode, from back in the 60s, featured a giant cube that impeded the Enterprise from proceeding forward in its journey. Every time the ship tried to move forward, the giant cube blocked them from passing. It would move in front of them, every direction they tried to turn. And I don't need to remind you that the elite Jew, what's his name, Rosenberg or whatever, the creator of Star Trek, he was an elite Jew scumball. So there you go. You think it's by accident that this symbology popped up in Star Trek, guys. The block was blocking their path. A blockade. Where do you think this stuff all comes from? Same damn source. Anyway, let's go to Dave in Florida. I'm sure he's got some interesting stuff to share with us today on this line. How's it going, Dave? Uh-oh. Now, that's really weird because I just talked to him during the break, and he was coming through loud and clear. Sorry, Dave, can't hear a thing. Wow, what the hell's up with that? Oh, boy. Well, Dave, hang up and try again, I guess. Not going to happen right now for some reason. Wow, that's really weird, folks. I just talked to him during the break. How did that, let me try again just for the hell of it. Can you hear me, Dave? Nope, it's not going to happen. Yeah, you're going to have to call back. Jeez, I wonder if you can hear me now, because I'm not seeing him hang up. Oh, wow, that's weird. I've never seen that before. Anyway, geez, I hope he doesn't have any trouble when he goes to co-host for me. Anyway. Let's see. Anyway, so picking up here, another symbol of Saturn was the six-pointed star or hexagram. Well, no surprise. No wonder that's one of the chief occult symbols. No wonder it became the symbol of Israel. You actually get a hexagram shape, by the way, when you tip a cube on one of its corners. If you view it, you point one of its corners at you, then you'll get this hexagram shape, this six-sided shape. Also, well, that's a true hexagram. The Israeli Star of David, quote unquote, is a six-pointed star, but it has a hexagram in its center. Or if you draw a lines connecting all of its dots around the perimeter, you get a hexagram. So essentially, it is a hexagram. Anyway, since a hexagram has six sides, of course, it's interesting to note that Saturn is the sixth planet from the Sun. The hexagram symbol is used in the U.S. for sheriff's badges. Now, why is that? And, of course, it is the symbol on, as I said, on Israel's flag. You got that symbol in the back of the $1 bill. Interestingly, NASA photographed a hexagram shape on the North Pole of the planet Saturn. That's a damn strange phenomenon. If you haven't seen that, just Google it. Just type in Saturn hexagram. Or you might have to put planet Saturn hexagram, but you'll see the images of it. That's pretty bizarre. I'll have more to say on that on future shows, delving into the scientific reasons for that or possible explanations for it. Anyway, this same symbol, although portrayed more subtly, is found in the papal insignia with the X or chi crossed over the P or pi. Over the rho. The Greek letter rho, which is really the Greek R, not P or pi. So, the chi rho or chi rho, as it's often called. You actually get a subtle hexagram out of that if you look at it carefully. Sometimes it's represented with, the papal symbol with two keys crossing over each other to form the X. But in any case, you still end up with a hexagram around its borders. So, naturally, since the Catholic Church is another elite Jew pig creation, naturally they're going to have that symbol included in there. They love that hexagram representing their god. Saturday, or Saturn Day, is, in Catholicism and most of Christianity in general, the 6th day of the week. It's actually, historically, the 7th, the Shabbat, but interestingly, they've made it the 6th day, Saturn's Day. Anyway, but, did elite Jew pigs deliberately choose Saturn's Day as their Sabbath? Of course, you ask your average Bible believer and they'll say, oh no, God instituted it. Yeah, whatever. Saturn, actually, their God did. Their God, the devil, instituted it. Saturn worship, along with the six-pointed star, was a part of the Judaic religion back in the New Testament era. In Acts 7:43, the book of Acts, the apostle Stephen told the Jews, quote, "Yea, ye took up the tabernacle of Moloch and the star of your god, Ramphan." Ramphan was another ancient name for Saturn. "Figures which ye made to worship them." Isn't that interesting, guys? Isn't that interesting? So they've been using this symbology for a very long time, haven't they? No wonder it pops up everywhere. All right, guys, stick with us. Be right back. All right, guys, welcome back. Our caller did call back, and fortunately now I am able to hear him. It's Dave from Florida. How's it going, Dave?
Hey, Charles, once again, how are you? We got cut off. Can you hear me?
Yeah, glad we got this
okay.
out now.
Okay,
yeah,
wow. Yeah. Now, speaking of sixes, doesn't the Bible have 66 books? I'm just curious.
Yeah, that's true, too. Interesting. New and Old Testament combined, yeah.
And speaking of cubes, there's a movie that's based on, it's from Clive Barker tales, and it's called Hellraiser, and the thing that surrounds the plot is a cube. And that cube, you break it apart or you open it up and unfold it. It's like the doorway to hell, the mind of Satan or the mind of anarchy or whatever. This event horizon type deal, and that is also about a cube. And also, interestingly enough, in the middle.
What is that again? That's interesting.
Oh, Hellraiser.
Hellraiser.
Yeah, guy from UK. He's also Jewish and a Kabbalist, just like the two guys who wrote Age of Aquarius. You remember the song that came out in the 69, 68, or 71, or something like that, I forget.
Yeah.
The Fifth Dimension. Those were Kabbalists, the two who wrote that song. And so is Clive Barker, who wrote the Hellraiser trilogy or whatever. It's not a trilogy, actually, like 9 movies, I think. And it all surrounds a box. You know, somebody gets a hold of the box. And
wow, I wasn't even aware of that one. That's interesting. Ties right in once again.
And the man who had it the longest was some monk, priest, guru, Baba Naga, whatever they call those guys out of India, named Satan, and you know, just looking at these little things that they throw at you and put in our faces purposely, but also in the middle of the tower center, where the so-called I don't even like to say it because it in itself is a mantra, but where the towers were disintegrated in New York was a art facsimile of the Kaaba stone center, and that was right in the middle of that, in that center there of the towers. Most people don't know that, and it was a commissioned artwork, so it's supposedly a replica type deal of the Kaaba stone, but what was inside the Kaaba stone. So it's kind of like a vaginal shaped icon that was there. Most people don't know that. So, and also, yesterday you were talking about the age of Aquarius. Aquarius was Ganymedes, and Ganymedes, Ganymedes was the little boy toy lover of Zeus. So is the age of Aquarius the age of homosexuality? Just
yeah, apparently so. There's your sexual revolution for you right there.
Yeah, exactly. It goes from hetero to homo, you know, or lesbo or whatever, but that's what they're trying to usher in. And I'm just all these little things that are, you know, that most people don't think about, but it's right there in front of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just wanted to, you know, mention those points. I had some others, but I kind of forgot along the way. But I wanted to mention that from yesterday, and most people don't know that about the Greek mythology or mythos about the gods and how they were kind of ambidextrous or whatever, or androgynous or borderline whatever. And also, one of the president's grandsons wrote a book that was way out there based on astrology and how astrology was all psychosexual. I'm trying to remember, he was the grandson of the 32nd president, I believe, and he was into all that stuff. And he came out with a book, and I'm trying to remember the name. If I get the name of the book, I'll let you know. And it's kind of out of print right now.
You talking FDR?
No, actually, Chester Arthur. And he wrote a book, and he switched he used the pen name. I think it was Chester Allen Arthur or Gavin Arthur, and he was the grandson of whatever. Something Chester Arthur or whatever. He was his grandson. And it was a book that came out during all that time of the so-called sexual revolution, around 67, 68, somewhere around there. And he was friends with Kerouac, with Leary, all those people. And that book right there, yeah, exactly. And a lot of that book was kind of like the Madame Blavatsky book of the 60s, 70s New Age, ushering in the New Age. And so it all surrounds itself around that. And, of course, they all worked out in this house in California. And guess what? They all wore black.
That figures.
Coincidence? I don't think so.
Unbelievable. Yeah, again, the more you dig, what I'm just presenting here is just scratching the surface, folks. I'm just introducing. It's much broader. It just goes on and on. It's unbelievable. And it's all right there out in your face. They flaunt it all the time, and they love it. That almost nobody ever catches on. And the few that do, well, they're just crazy conspiracy nuts.
Yeah, and they don't expect anyone to catch on because, you know, they know that the systems that are in place don't pique the mind to go that far.
Yeah.
You know, look at the attention span of the average person. They don't even realize, let alone remember. So, of course, there's nothing to worry about because as long as the masses of people that they have under thumb continue to do the same thing over and over again and only react when something is in front of them, they don't have to worry about it. In fact, it feels good for them to gloat in the media or pop culture, whether it's through songs or whether it's through movies or books. They love that. They kind of, basically, like you said, they get off on that.
Right.
So, of course, there's no reason to hide it. And if you go to court and you're paying a ticket or you're sitting in front of a jury, whatever, and you see a judge in a black robe, it's not going to tick in your mind that, wait, wasn't that Hasidic guy at the jewelry shop looking the same way? Or wasn't that rabbi looking? It doesn't add up.
They love to, again, hide it in plain sight. They love to actually tell you what's going on without really telling you. Just like, you know, that show, the Lone Gunman. That whole plot was exactly what was played out on 9/11. And yet nobody caught on, virtually nobody. It went right by people's eyes. They were telling you in advance, 6 months in advance is when that thing was first broadcast. The original pilot show for the series.
Right, and then I think did they postpone it or not show it until after? I forget what happened.
No, it was aired before. It was in
aired.
March of 2001. But, interestingly, that series didn't last long. They canceled it shortly thereafter. You got to wonder, did they create it just for that purpose, having no intention of having it last? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what it is purposeful because and this, again, shows the attention span of these TV viewers, people we know and family and friends and acquaintances and strangers. They don't have that whether it's fluoride or whatever, or some spell, who knows, but most people don't realize what's going on in front of them. You could look at all of the top TV shows from all of the so-called top networks, and each of them has been canceled at a particular time.
Yeah.
And then they'll put out in the trades or in the magazines, the numbers were low or the Arbitron ratings were low and, the audience levels weren't up or whatever. That's a lie. Look at the show called The Event. That show talked about and showed that they wanted to bring the world's population down because a certain group of people who were here before everybody is coming back to take what's rightfully theirs. So we're going to have to clear out. And wait, what does that sound like? Sounds like everything that's going on now. And all of a sudden the show ended. And the president was black in that show, by the way, as all of this is about to happen. And it's called The Event. And by the way, CBS is located in a building, like I mentioned a few shows of yours back, called Black Rock, and nicknamed Black Rock by a Jewish guy, of course, who became the president of CBS. Black Rock. It's CBS Black Rock. It's a big building. It's all black, just like a black stone. I'm not kidding. You go to Manhattan, you'll see it.
Unbelievable, man.
CBS Black Rock.
Again, when you would tune yourself into this stuff, folks, and you start looking for it, you'll see signs of it everywhere. Anyway, we got a break coming in. Thanks, Dave, for the call. Great stuff. And I'll be in touch today or tomorrow, and we'll set things up to help you get ready for for hosting in a couple of weeks.
Sounds good. I definitely will.
All right, take it easy, man.
Bye.
Stick with us, folks. Be right back. All right, guys. Welcome back. Anyway, as I was saying before, the Jewish religion of the Old Testament is all too often viewed by modern scholars as sacred, whereas the surrounding contemporary religions are labeled as having been profane mystery religions. But was not ancient Judaism based on the same concept of secret, esoteric knowledge? And again, there's nothing wrong with esotericism, nothing wrong with, secret, if it's being kept secret simply to protect it because it's precious. But in this context, that's not what we're dealing with. They're hiding it and keeping it secret because it's freaking evil. And if it was exposed for what it was, no one would ever have anything to do with it. They'd arrest these bastards and see to it that they never hold any high positions of power like what they have today and always have had for thousands of years. Anyways, let's look at the book of Daniel, for example. The book of Daniel tells us that ancient Judaism was pure esotericism, secret knowledge. Chapter 1, verses 3 and 4, for example, says, "Bring certain of the children of Israel and of the king's seed and of the princes, children in whom is found no blemish, but well-favored and skillful in all wisdom and cunning in knowledge and science." Cunning in knowledge and science, more like cunning and twisting it. But now look what it says in verse 6. "Among these children were Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah." Verse 17, "As for these 4 children, God gave them knowledge and skill in learning and wisdom, and Daniel had understanding in all visions and dreams." Can't get more esoteric than that now, can you? You go back to the Genesis story of Joseph in Egypt, the same damn thing. "Oh, I can interpret your dream, O king." And, this brings us back to MK Ultra, to mind control. Wouldn't it be interesting, guys, if these dreams that they were interpreting were actually induced? What if, just suppose for a moment, and if you ever listen to my shows on ancient technology, which I did a couple years ago, you know that the ancients did have they did have advanced technology. They did have electricity, for example. That's a fact. That's not, a theory. The Babylonians, for example, had batteries. They produced 1.5 volts of charge. They would string them up together to produce a much more powerful charge. But that was just from about 500 BC. Was this a degraded technology that was even more advanced in more ancient times prior to that they had only had faint memories of? And who knows? My point is, since the ancients did have advanced technology that, in some cases rivaled our own, is it possible that in ancient times elite Jew pigs hijacked from Gentiles, as they've always done, in modern times, is it possible they hijacked this technology in ancient times as well, hoarded it to themselves, and actually used this technology to implant ideas in these ancient kings' heads while sleeping, induced these, artificial dreams, artificial messages like they do today, with electromagnetic waves, transmitting messages. You remember the Jesse Ventura show when he demonstrated this. He had messages planted into his head. Nick Begich was operating the equipment. He was planting a message into Ventura's head, and he could hear it, not with his ears, but he heard it inside of his head. And, of course, we talked about how some people, who have committed horrific crimes have said that, well, God told me to do it. Well, if you get someone doped up, mess with their head through, trauma-based abuse, and then you transmit messages into their head that they believe or are led to believe are from God, yeah, you can get them to commit all kinds of heinous crap. My point is it possible that ancient elite Jews, scum of the earth, if there's any truth to these stories about them interpreting kings' dreams, is it possible they planted those damn dreams in their head to begin with, planted those messages in their head, but they couldn't recall them, just like when you wake up, you can't recall a lot of times what you dreamt the night before. But then Daniel, the magician, the one empowered by Yahweh, i.e. the devil, who probably wore a black cube on his forehead, is it possible that Daniel was able to tell the king what his dream was about so he could wow him, and the king would be convinced that his God is powerful. He was able to tell me what my dream was. Is it possible that Daniel, using his little magic black box, if you will, implanted the damn dream in the king's head to begin with, so he could come around later and tell him what it was about, and then give him this phony interpretation of it? Who knows? Did Joseph do the same thing? Don't forget, guys, the Egyptian Book of the Dead tells about MK Ultra mind control type techniques involving trauma-based, methods of mind control. So that technology goes way back. That was well known in ancient times. So you can't put anything past these sleazy swine balls now, can you? Anyway, let's look at Daniel 1, verse 20. It says, "And in all matters of wisdom and understanding that the king inquired of them, he found them 10 times better than all the magicians and astrologers that were in all the realm." Now, is that just the author of the book of Daniel trying to make elite Jew pigs look like superior intelligence? They do that today. They try to give the impression that they're of, the highest order of intellect. And they'll cite how, most of the graduates of Ivy League schools, or a great many of them anyway, are and have been Jews all through the decades. Of course, they don't point out that the reason for that is really because Daddy got them in there, and Daddy was able to get them in there because Daddy's been ripping Gentiles off for decades on end. And that's always been the case, guys. All in during the Middle Ages. Most of your physicians, pretty much all of them, will elite Jew pig swine balls. Is that because they had a superior intellect, or because their sleazy rigging of the system afforded them opportunities that weren't afforded to Gentiles? That's your reason right there. So here you have the same thing in the book of Daniel. Daniel's wisdom far exceeded that of all the king's men. And of course, you know, your Bible defenders would say, oh no, it's not because of their intellect, it's because God was empowering them, giving them this wisdom. Yeah, the square-cubed God? Oh, please, knock it off. If there's any truth to this, and Daniel's wisdom and his 3 friends exceeded that of the king's wise men, again, guys, it's only because, you know, they had the damn thing rigged then like they got it rigged now. And they worked it in their favor, so they would seem superior. Yeah, maybe because they had access to technologies that were being suppressed from everybody else, so they could implant these phony dreams in the king's head and then come along and interpret the dreams and wow the king that they could tell him what the dream was about. Who knows? But whatever it was, you know, it's always some sleazy sleight of hand trick that they play. That's all they ever do. For that matter, they could have used some low-tech thing. They could have had one of their elite Jew pig advisors in the king's court. Maybe Daniel himself. He was a top advisor to the king in Babylon, if there's any truth to the damn story. Maybe he, in the middle of the night, went into the king's quarters, probably gave him some dope or something, you know, put something in his drink the night before so he'd be in a deep sleep, and then subtly implanted ideas in his head, and then later repeated those ideas when the king was awake, and it came back to him. Oh, yes, I remember hearing that in my dream. You see my point? In any case, as always, it's a sleight of hand trick. Elite Jew pigs have always used to make it look like their God is empowering them. What a friggin' joke. But notice here in the book of Daniel, guys, you have this allusion to secret esoteric knowledge. Isn't it interesting? They condemned other religions and other cultures for having secret esoteric knowledge, when all the while they did the same thing. They condemned other cultures for worshiping images, but they did it, it was okay. Condemned other cultures for murdering, they do it and it's okay. They do the same thing today, don't they? They want us to attack all these evil Arab countries, for doing things that actually they don't even do. When all the while, Israel's doing it on a daily basis, and that's okay. Because it's Israel. God's chosen. And their biggest cheerleaders are the ones who are supposed to be holy and righteous. The Christian world, or the majority of it anyway. The followers of their same black cube god, the devil himself, ladies and gentlemen. Yahweh. We'll be right back. All right, guys, welcome back. One of the names given to Saturn in ancient times, interestingly enough, was El. The Old Testament God, of course, is El, or Elohim. This is where the El comes from in Israel, and probably the source of the word Elit, interestingly enough. Another group of people who wear black, again, are witches. And don't witches like to cast hexes? Remember, the hexagram is associated and has been all through history with Saturn. The deity of Rome was originally known, again, as Saturnia or Saturnalia. And so Rome was the city of Saturn, which was, of course, an important deity in their pantheon, as I mentioned. Anyway, when it comes to corporate logos, Saturn pops up everywhere. Let's take a look at that. Again, guys, once you tune yourself into this to know what to look for, you're going to see signs of it everywhere. It's like, I think I mentioned this analogy before. One of my hobbies is looking for ancient Native American stoneworks in the woods. I wish I had known this a long time ago as a kid. I've always been fascinated with Native American culture. I would have loved to go hiking. I didn't discover this until just a few years ago. But literally everywhere you go in the woods of New England, everywhere you go in the woods, you're going to find Native American stoneworks. Once you know what to look for. I used to go hiking, off and on as a kid, but I never knew what I was looking at. I would see stones all over the place. But I never realized what I was seeing. I just saw piles here and there. I just thought it was just random stuff that people tossed, here or there, or that, Maybe they were just naturally dumped there by the glaciers. You know, that's what, you know, mainstream science would have you believe. But now that, you know, my eye's been trained, I know what to look for. Yeah, you see this stuff everywhere. It's how it is with these Saturn symbols. When you don't know what to look for, the stuff, you just pass it right by. Once you know what to look for, it's like, oh my God, this stuff is everywhere. So let's take a look. Not only do we find squares, cubes, and hexagrams, as we've already been looking at, but Saturn itself pops up directly. You know, the shape of the planet Saturn representing this deity, Satan himself. For example, Boeing's insignia is a circle with a ring around it, the planet Saturn. The Saturn brand of automobiles, right in your face, that's obvious. And it has an obvious symbol of the planet Saturn as well. Or had, I guess it's no longer in business. But the Nike symbol is simply one side of Saturn's ring system minus the planet itself. You just see the ring. Microsoft's symbol for Internet Explorer is a big circular E with a yellow Saturn-like ring around it. Nortel Networks has a ring around the O in Nortel. There you go. The symbol for AAA has a ring around the three A's as well, with the three A's being inside an elongated circle. So there's your subtle yet not so subtle reference to Saturn. Nissan's insignia appears to depict Saturn as seen with its rings edge on. Earthlink has a golden circle with a black ring around it. Sega Saturn has a blue sphere with a silver ring around it. You know, on and on it goes. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings is really a reference to the ancient chief deity Saturn, the Lord of the Rings. At one point, he depicts the character, you know, in the movie anyway, Sauron as saying, quote, well, in his book, Tolkien has Sauron saying, one ring to rule them all, one ring to find them, one ring to bring them all, and in the darkness bind them. Isn't that interesting, ladies and gentlemen? You know, I used to live next door to some incredibly gullible sap Christians, what were they, Assemblies of God or whatever. And I remember the guy was really, really into the Lord of the Rings. And I remember talking to him like, don't you see the dark occultic connotations in that thing? You know what he said? Oh, no, it's all Christian. Tolkien was a Christian, and he was portraying Christian themes all throughout the movie. Whatever. Well, of course, when you recognize Christianity as an elite Jew pig creation, and that its God Yahweh is the devil, I guess maybe he was right and I was wrong. At the time, of course, I was a gullible Bible thumper myself, yet I recognized, that movie having a dark occult themes. But then again, since Christianity has dark occult themes, I should have been more akin to it like he was, maybe. Anyway, interesting quote here, though, from Tolkien, wouldn't you say? One ring to bring them all, and in the darkness bind them. That says it all right there, guys. They're using their god, Saturn or Satan or Yahweh, whatever you want to call them, to bring people in, and then in the darkness to bind them. They think that they found the light. Isn't it interesting? Christians condemn New Agers and say that their version of the light is really darkness, but yet the light that they're offering, ladies and gentlemen, is darkness as well, because it leads you to follow the child-murdering psychopathic monster in the clouds called Yahweh, which is another name for the devil. Anyway, the fact that the wearing of wedding rings goes back to the time of Rome should tell us something about the Saturnian origin of this practice as well. In this sense, perhaps they really are rings of bondage, since the marriage contract is between three parties, both spouses and the state. The two spouses are really becoming married to the state, and who controls the state but our elite Jew pig buddies? Anyways, as you can see, guys, signs of this evil, dark, black religion of the elite Jew pigs, Saturnism or Satanism, is literally all around us. They're shoving it right in our faces. So, you know, be alert to this stuff. Look for it. And, yeah, if you see new stuff that I haven't bumped into, that I haven't mentioned, email it to me. In fact, Dave mentioned, I got to go look at this show he was talking about. What the hell was the name of it now? I wrote it down. I'm going to look it up later. Hellraiser. Now, I wasn't even aware of that one. The whole theme of the box being the source of power. Holy crap! And Shaitan being mentioned there. Of course, a reference to Satan. Oh, yeah. No surprise there. So, you know, be looking for signs of this, guys. You'll see this stuff all over the place. Anyway, that concludes my discussion on Saturn. I'm going to follow this up tomorrow with a discussion on Yahweh, the bloodthirsty God, and then we'll go from there into, ultimately, the thing on the Salem witch trials. In the last minute or so I see we got a caller here. Not sure if he's calling in to come on the show. Are you there, caller? I guess not. I guess he's just calling in to listen.
Hello?
Oh, wait a minute.
Hello?
Are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Not too good, kind of muffled, but yeah, you only got about a minute left. What's up?
Okay, well, you've a minute left on the show, is it?
Yeah, it's just about over. Did you have a quick point, or maybe you want to call in tomorrow?
Well, no, it's a fair one. If it's coming to the end of the show, I just want to say, Charles, well done, good effort in all your efforts there. I've been listening to your stuff for a long period of time, and I just want to say thank you very much for your efforts there, dude.
Excellent, you bet. Thanks for the call.
Okay, no problem. I'll call you back another time, huh?
You bet. Okay, thanks a lot. Yeah, I wish we had more time.
Okay, all the best,
Yeah, same to you. Have a great day, folks, and we'll be talking about Yahweh the bloodthirsty monster tomorrow. Stick with us, folks. See you then.